Hey there, Amy here with NorCal Integrative Medicine. So today I'm going to talk about potassium because it looks like COVID-19 depletes potassium in people who have it. That's at least according to one preprint, which is not a peer-reviewed study, but it is information and it does make sense. So I'll just talk about that really quick and then I'll talk about how to get more potassium. The fact is most people are not getting enough potassium every day anyway, so it's probably a good idea to up your intake, get optimal electrolytes, potassium, and the full range of electrolytes, but especially potassium. So first I'll talk about the study and then I'll just kind of go through what you can do. So there were 175 patients in a Chinese hospital with COVID-19. 33% of those had low potassium, 22% had severely low potassium. And in some of these people, they had to give them an infusion of potassium, and that actually really helped their situation. But that's a lot of people with low potassium. And so I also wanted to note that a lot of these people with the more severe depletion of potassium was kind of in tandem with hypertension. So that is notable. But it also is interesting because it seems like because this virus attaches to that ACE2 receptor, which is the receptor in the lung that we know only 3 coronaviruses in the world so far we know of attached to that ACE2 receptor, and that was the SARS-CoV-1, the coronavirus NL63, which is endemic, and it's been around for hundreds of years, and this coronavirus, SARS-CoV-2, all attached to that ACE2 receptor. So the ACE2 receptor in the lungs the ACE2 is partly responsible for regulating blood pressure and keeping your lungs healthy. So there's definitely a relationship to potassium. I could go on and on about all that, but I find it very interesting. So if you know me and if you've been into my clinic, a lot of my patients know that I'm constantly telling them to get more electrolytes, because what people do is they tell me, well, I've been drinking a lot of water. I've been really drinking a lot of water and I'm trying to drink more water. And I'm like, look, if you're drinking a lot more water, you're diluting your electrolytes. You need to get more, especially people who are on low carb or ketogenic diets, which some portion of my patient population is, because I do use that strategy in my clinic for several things. Weight loss being one, reversing diabetes being two, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, you can up your fluid intake, but you really want to make sure you're getting enough potassium and sodium. Anyway, so what to do if you do get sick with COVID-19? In terms of your electrolytes, really all you need to do is just make sure you are perhaps supplementing with some sort of electrolyte solution. It could be something like, this is probably backwards, but KTO. This is a product from Designs for Health. It's called KTO ElectroPure that has potassium. You could get something like Trace Minerals Electrolyte Stamina. There are tons of different electrolyte solutions on the market. My preference is that people do not get electrolyte solutions that are flavored or have sugar or glucose, or you don't need any sugar in your electrolyte solution or carbohydrate in your electrolyte solution. So doing supplementing with an electrolyte solution is fine. You can also do bone broths. You can do trace mineral drops. You can, let me think about this. So food sources, wild salmon, red meat, chicken, turkey. And what I know about red meat is the potassium gets lost in the juices when you cook it. So if you're cooking red meat, you want to save those juices, make a sauce, cook a stew, you're getting a lot of potassium there. So some other food sources, if you're into vegetables, not everybody's into vegetables, mustard greens, endive, bok choy, the dark leafy greens, kale and spinach. I personally am not a big fan of kale. I personally am not a big fan of spinach, because spinach itself is really high in oxalates. That's another story. But if you like spinach and kale, go for it and they don't bother you. Dried fruits like apricots, figs, those are some food selections. What I say again with dried fruits is try not to eat a ton of dried fruit, because there is sugar in that. You might get a little too much sugar, and we know that sugar can be a problem for fighting off viruses. So that's about it. So if you do get sick, just really think about your minerals. You may not have an appetite, but you may be able to do something like sip on some broth with put a couple drops of trace minerals in there. If you're not sick and you're looking to prevent being sick, I'm not saying increasing your potassium intake is going to prevent COVID, but optimizing your electrolytes in general is a good idea. So you need to balance your potassium out with sodium. A lot of people are scared of salt, and if you have high blood pressure, maybe you do want to watch your salt intake. But if you don't, I would recommend liberally salting your food with Redmond's real salt, some kind of sea salt, preferably a deep water sea salt, because a lot of the sea salts that they're pulling out of the water now have plastic contaminants. That's another story. So really think about your electrolytes and make sure you're getting enough potassium. And I will say this last thing, my patients know this about me too. Bananas are not that great of a source of potassium. Avocados are far superior. So when you're reaching for that produce at the market, grab avocados and not bananas. Bananas are the candy bars of fruit, okay? They just are. So lots of sugar in bananas. And what else? I think that's about it. If I'm missing anything, I'll put it in the notes or in the blog where I'm posting. If you have any questions, let me know, or you can contact my clinic, NorCal Integrative Medicine. I am doing free 30-minute free consultations, and you can set that up anytime. Take care.